You may know the first humans originated in Africa, but did you know archaeologists found the oldest humanoid fossil remains in Ethiopia? The earliest remains of a human ancestor we have so far date from between 5.2 and 5.8 million years ago. Some of the earliest Homo sapiens also hail from this country, dating from around 2.8 million years ago. Some of the first humans came from Ethiopia, but how did the ancient people live while they were there? Ethiopia is one of the great unsung powers in history. It's one of the oldest countries in the world and home to impressive empires like the Kingdom of Damat and the Kingdom of Omom. In addition to ancient human ancestors, archaeologists have also discovered the oldest tools in the world in Ethiopia. These stone tools are around 2.52 million years old. They have also found the oldest stone-tipped projectiles, including spears, javelins, and darts, suggesting that prehistoric Ethiopia was an innovative society. When people think about Ethiopia today, they may instead think about the country's modern relationship with religion. As Islam swept through Africa during the Middle Ages, Ethiopia held on to its Christian beliefs as one of the few who were able to withstand the Muslim forces. However, long before the African Middle Ages, Ethiopia had developed a rich culture and lifestyle that continues to impact the country today. Looking back at a couple of Ethiopia's early kingdoms, we can see how the ancient Ethiopians lived before converting to Christianity and appreciate how their persistence continues to influence the world today. What was life like in the Kingdom of Damat? Historians believe the Kingdom of Damat was Ethiopia's first kingdom, beginning around 1000 BCE. Right after the kingdom started, Ethiopia also entered written world history through the Jewish Old Testament, when the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon of Israel. She had heard of Solomon and decided to meet him around 970 BCE. While some may hesitate to use religious texts for history, the Ethiopian records have a similar story. They expand on the biblical story and state King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba had a son together, Menelik I. He legendarily started the Solomonic dynasty in Ethiopia, which ruled the country until 1974. He also supposedly established Ethiopian Judaism, and historians have confirmed Judaism was a part of Ethiopian culture long before they converted to Christianity. Of course, life in the Kingdom of Damat focused on more than practicing Judaism. The kingdom was situated in the northern part of modern Ethiopia and used Yeha as its capital. While some Ethiopians did practice Judaism, many worshipped other deities, some local and some from Arabian influences. Several of their cities had temples to other gods, including the Temple of Yeha at the capital. Today, it is the oldest standing building in the country and was probably built around 700 BCE in the Sabaean style, reflecting Arabian influences. The building is a rectangle with only one entrance, and the temple was dedicated to Al-Makka. Al-Makka is an ancient southern Arabian god associated with the moon. People usually depicted him with a bull's head and a vine, suggesting he may have had more responsibilities. Damat and southern Arabia exchanged many cultural and religious ideas because they traded extensively. Damat specialized in goods like ivory, gold, silver, enslaved people, and rhinoceros horns. Their partnership is also how Ethiopia eventually developed its written alphabet, Ge'ez, which is similar to the Southern Arabian written language. While trade was essential to the Kingdom of Damat, most people were farmers. They grew a variety of crops, including grains like millet. Sadly, historians do not know much about the Ethiopian people during this time. The kingdom was part of international trade, and their culture was shaped by Arabian influences, giving them architecture and different deities. The Kingdom of Damat finally fell in the 5th century BCE. Ethiopia struggled for several centuries under various kingdoms now unknown to history. However, life would soon improve for the ancient Ethiopians when the Kingdom of Omom began. What was life like in the Kingdom of Omom? Some historians have argued the Kingdom of Omom evolved from the Kingdom of Damat. Still, some historians say the Kingdom of Omom began around 150 BCE and ruled Ethiopia until 940 or 960 CE, overseeing Ethiopia's conversion to Christianity, which didn't occur until around 324 CE. This Ethiopian kingdom was powerful, and much of its power came from trade. Although Omom was the capital, its principal trading center was Adulis, a port on the Red Sea several days away from Omom. A duelist was in an ideal position, sitting on several trade routes crisscrossing across Africa. They used land and sea routes to build their wealth. A trade route started around 100 BCE, connecting Egypt and India via the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea, and a duelist was a critical part of that. The people of Aksum traded with many groups, including the Romans and the Chinese, and they used their trade to create interconnections to fuel their power. By the 3rd century, the Kingdom of Aksum was one of the most powerful empires in the world, alongside the Romans, Chinese, and Persians. Trade was so plentiful that the Kingdom of Aksum became the first African country to make its own coins, minting them in gold, silver, and bronze using standard Roman weights. These coins have helped archaeologists track Aksum's trading routes. Historians have found coins as far east as India. Ethiopia exported many of the same goods they traded during the Kingdom of Damat. They traded valuables like gold, frankincense, emeralds, ivory, salt, and enslaved people, in exchange for items like iron, glass, spices, olive oil, and textiles. During the Kingdom of Aksum, the climate was ideal for farming. The soil was rich, and the rain was plentiful enough to support crops like wheat and barley, and livestock, including sheep, camels, and cattle. However, the land was hilly, which is not usually suitable for farming. The people overcame this with terrace farming and irrigation, allowing them to produce abundant food. Many commoners were still farmers, although there was ethnic variety in the kingdom. Many of the people were Habeshas, originating in the area and speaking a Semitic language, but many of the cities collected a Greek population, especially in Aksum and Adulis. A couple of the other tribes lived in and around Ethiopia. Historians believe one of them was the Norse, an animist tribe that constantly warred with the Kingdom of Aksum. As Aksum conquered territories and spread its economic influence in East Africa, its society became increasingly complex, splitting the nobility into ranks and separating them from the commoners. Even for the commoners, though, this was an exciting time. The growing population meant the cities became more crowded, and villages soon sprang up across the kingdom, all ruled by the king's administration. While historians do not know much about how ordinary people lived their daily lives, a few clues were left behind, primarily through their art. Aksum pottery was usually simple. They didn't have pottery wheels, limiting their vessels to cups, bowls, and pitchers. This limitation didn't stop their creativity, as they used cuts, stamps, and paint to decorate their red and black pottery. But they did not appear to want to learn how to make more complicated pieces, which they usually imported. The people also left behind clay models of houses. The models are generally square and round huts. The round hut had a conical roof, while the square one usually had rectangular doors and windows, sometimes with a thatched roof. Art was an even more critical part of the nobles' lifestyle, and they often showed their wealth and artistic eye through their architecture. While the Kingdom of Aksum was famous for acquiring aspects of other cultures, they did not copy their neighbors in building pyramids. Instead, they built tall towers called stelae or obelisks. Like pyramids, stelae also marked graves, usually for kings, nobility, and certain priests. The tallest one was over 100 feet high. These structures were highly decorated and intended to look like multi-story palaces, so they sometimes had false doors and windows. They were also decorated with carvings, showing the person's rank as a member of the nobility. The most impressive part of the stelae was their height. Most of the structures stood above the ground, but were balanced with underground counterweights that showed the people's mathematical expertise. Many stelae also have stone throws nearby, and some historians believe they used to hold metal statues. The most famous stela is the Obelisk of Aksum, constructed around 300 CE. Stelae were more common during the early part of the Kingdom of Aksum. Once the kingdom converted to Christianity, the practice gradually faded. Of course, the nobility's actual palaces were also works of art. Aksum palaces usually centered around a pavilion with different rooms coming off it, guarded by gates or doors. Their palaces were typically built with stone like granite, but Aksum stone buildings were usually built without mortar. Instead, the builders simply carved the stones to fit tightly together. As the walls rose, they usually tapered, but they were hardly straight and flat. Instead, the Aksum people built regular recesses into the walls to strengthen them, eventually creating a unique architectural style. The rich in Aksum also erected enormous statues. Sadly, we only have their stone bases today. Even with this little, historians use the inscriptions and feet indentation to estimate what the figures may have looked like. One base held a metal statue dedicated to one of the local deities, and it was most likely 3 times larger than life. While the giant statues are lost to history, there are still figurines, usually of animals and women. The Oxum people buried their prestigious dead in stone tombs and filled them with goods. But these tombs were robbed before archaeologists discovered them, leaving behind only scraps of storage boxes and materials. During the Kingdom of Oxum's early history, they continued following their indigenous religion and Judaism. Their polytheistic faith was popular on both sides of the Red Sea, but the Oxum people mainly worshipped Marum, the god of war, among others. They also practiced ancestor worship, sacrificing cattle, either live or representations, to the gods and the ancestors. Christianity first came to the kingdom through missionaries and traders starting as early as the 1st century CE, but the kingdom's conversion was gradual. For a time, Christianity lived alongside the traditional religions, but around 324 CE, Ethiopia stepped into a new age when King Ezana made Christianity the state religion. He was most likely introduced to Christianity by his childhood tutor, Frumentius, although historians are unsure if Ezana's decision came from religious conviction or diplomatic relations with the Roman Empire. Either way, his choice changed the way Ethiopians lived. They no longer practiced Judaism or worshiped their indigenous gods, and at the height of Aksum's power, this religious change brought sweeping changes to the culture as well. The people had mainly accepted both their indigenous polytheism and aspects of Judaism into their culture. Although some scholars have argued there were not a large number of Jewish practitioners, their influence was still substantial. When King Ezana pushed his kingdom to accept Christianity, he helped establish Coptic Christianity, which later became the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, and changed everything from their artwork to their coinage. Life would never be the same in Ethiopia, but the people had already developed a unique lifestyle that they merged with Christianity. The ancient Ethiopians lived complex lives and laid the foundation for Ethiopia to shine during the African Middle Ages and into the modern world, showing us all the importance of living life well while embracing tradition. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Ethiopia, check out our book, History of Ethiopia, a captivating guide to Ethiopian history. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.